Bright QT. Every student matters.
Now let's move to the types of the rights. The very first one is your natural rights. Now what these natural rights are? Natural means are they related to nature? Let's see how. Faith is natural right and is strongly expressed by several scholars, and they hold the people inherit several rights from the nature before they came to live in society and state, and they used to live in a state of nature, and in it they enjoyed certain natural rights like the right to life, right to liberty, right to property, and natural rights are parts of human nature and reason. However, several other scholars also regard the concept of natural rights as imaginary, and the rights are the products of social living. These can be used in the society, and they have behind them in the recognition of society as common claim for development, and that is why the state protects these rights. Now, the moral rights, moral itself needs, which gives us some lessons. Moral rights are those rights which are based on human consciousness, where your inner soul allows you. That means what is right, what is wrong, these things you could be judged, that right or wrong things. That means where your soul allows you, right? These are the rights. So they are backed by moral force of human being. These are based on human sense of goodness and justice. These are not backed by the force of law. And sense of goodness and public opinion are the sanctions behind the moral rights. If any person violates any moral right, that means if he destroys, if he ruined it, so what happened at that time? Legal action can be taken against him, and the state does not enforce these rights, and its court do not recognize these rights. And moral rights include role of good conduct, courtesy, moral behavior, talking to people in a polite way, not doing the wrong things. So thankfulness, humanity. See, when you have rights, that is true that you are claiming something, but for that you have to be a very good personality, good charactered person, a good code of conduct to be followed by the person for the moral right. Now we have legal rights also in our society. What legal rights are? When you think that rights are being disturbed, the rights which are recognized and enforced by the state, any violation of any legal right is punished by law. Law courts of the state enforce legal rights. So these rights are enforced as the rights against individuals and also against the government. So, in this way, these rights are different from moral rights, and legal rights are equally available to all the citizens. All citizens enjoy legal rights without any discrimination, and they can go to the courts for getting their legal rights enforced. Because the things which are being like used as in a legal way in the society, people can enjoy all those rights, but with the help of law. And moreover, people should know how to act lawfully in the country. Otherwise these legal rights cannot be recognized. One has to be disciplined, one has to live according to the laws and order which are being mentioned in the constitution. Now let us talk about the civil rights. What are civil rights? Why these rights were maintained, and why we have started all these rights? See, uh, rights to life. Civil right means for a human being right to life, and the right to life is basic civil right. Without this right, there can be no safety either for the individual, for the society. However, right to life does not mean the right to end life or to commit suicide. Suicide is a crime against the society and the self. We have got life, and God has gifted us. This is a natural thing that we are on this beautiful earth. So, this is our basic duty to take care of our own body so that we can utilize our this civil right. And this ending a life is also a crime. So suicide is a crime against the society and oneself. Okay, let's revise how many kinds are of rights: natural, moral, and legal rights. And what are natural rights? Natural rights are those rights which a man gets from nature and which cannot be abolished by the state. And enumerate kinds of natural rights: right to life, right to property, right to freedom. And what is the main feature of moral rights? Moral rights are not legally recognized, and these rights cannot be enforced by the state. Now, right to freedom of thought and expression. See, this is before I start this, I would like to discuss this thing with you people. Do you think if you live with a family, or if you go to school, colleges, or university, or you are in your peer group, you don't need any freedom of discussing your things, expressing your things, to take out your thoughts out of your mind or your soul? You would like to share it. So, this is what the right to freedom of thought and expression. In case somebody says that don't talk about anything, you just have to follow the instructions. Will you be able to survive in the country? No, not at all in the society. So, right to freedom of thought and expression is also very important because it develops your personality. It is the overall development, and each and every person who wants freedom to express and exchange the views, the ideas, the mental level, the mindset you want to discuss. Because when you discuss things, you get so many ideas as well. You try to make yourself compatible with the society. You try to improve yourself if in case you find some flaws. Then right to religious freedom as well. As we say, India is a democratic country. There is no pressure on our side to follow any of the religions with the state with as a state symbol, because we are totally free. Our state has given us the freedom. We can follow, we can practice any of the religions in any of the ways. They are free to adopt any religion. They are free to establish their religious institutions. So, right to religious freedom is one of the major thing of our society. Personal freedom. What exactly mean the personal freedom is? That is exactly your inner growth, your inner development, your mentality, your thinking, what you are thinking, what you are saying. That means whatsoever you think in your mind and then you speak out. So this is a personal freedom. You can think anything about anything. No one can stop you. It is moving around in your mind. So, right to personal freedom is absolutely essential for the mental and physical growth of individual. But this does not mean that the individual can do whatever he likes. And right to personal freedom can be enjoyed in accordance with laws and made by the state, and also in the accordance in the interest of the society. Now, right to vote. This is one of the political right. In a democratic state, every adult citizen has the right to vote, and that is to under universal adult suffrage. What is that? Universal adult suffrage. That means the person who is at the adult age. That means in India it is 18 or above. They can vote, and this right is given only to adults, and that is person above a particular age, 18 years or 21 years. It varies from country to country. Then right to get elected is also my right. This is a democratic country. If I want to contest an election, nobody can stop me. Why? Because this is my right. I have this right. I have got this right with my birth, and according to Constitution of India, I am being privileged with the right to get elected. Because in democratic states, every citizen has also the right to get elected to any public office. And he can get elected to a legislature or a municipal corporation or municipal committee or panchayat and work as its members. And some qualifications are, however, fixed for seeking election. The right to hold public office. Citizens also have the right to hold public offices after getting elected as representatives of the people. While fixing qualifications, no discrimination is made and proper care is taken that only competent persons get elected. Now, the right to economic and social security. This is very important. what exactly the right to economic and social security is. What do we mean by it? Because these are the like if we talk about all these, then in a modern welfare state, citizens are also given the right to economic and social security. State provides security in case of old age, sickness, unemployment, and etc. And most of the states which are given uh, old age pensions, unemployment allowances, benefits of we could say provident fund, financial helps during illness or accidents or natural calamities. The socio-economic rights gives us a few more rights. Right to work, that means they give us the right to livelihood. What is livelihood? That means the way we just earn the money to make our living standard. That means it is essential for the good living and the fulfillment of the various needs of the persons. And every modern state tries to give the right to work to its people. So if I talk, okay, I take one example. If man requires money for keeping body and soul together, that means for the health care, for education, to eat something, to have the basic amenities, money is earned. But how money is earned? Sometimes it is by labor, by trading, by official work, by doing jobs. So the laborers also work, the employees also work, and the traders also work. But the motive is to earn money. And why that money is to be earned? That money to be earned to maintain the good living standard. And if I talk about, if the state cannot provide work, unemployment allowances is provided to the people, as I have told you. So, in case unemployment is more than the people, those who are working in the country, then it's a curse. But yes, there are certain policies and projects which have been started after independence of India to prove this right so that people can at least earn money for their livelihood. Now, right to adequate wages. Now, what are adequate wages? That means whatsoever you are working, are you getting the proper economic standard? A person has a right not only to work but also the right to be paid adequate wages in his labor. Because for this purpose, state fixes minimum wages according to the quality and quantity of work. And wage is always regarded as a reward for the work done. So if I say that right of at least minimum economic standard to be maintained, and man has certain essential needs which have to be fulfilled. Otherwise, he cannot keep body and soul together. Man's right or woman's right to live for clothing, shelter, and shelter and other things which are required for the survival. So these are the things that this standard of his living is ensured by the state. So there are many people who don't even get two square meals, which is actually very wrong and very disheartening as well. Like after so many years of independence, still they are struggling with this problem. And on the other hand, some people are rolling in wealth and plenty. So in India, what is the problem? Why we are not competing the actual economy of the world? Because rich are becoming very rich and poor have become more poorer. So the gap between their income is not being fulfilled yet. So therefore, a minimum economic standard should be provided to its citizens so that he could meet his minimum essential needs. Right to property, this is also a natural thing. A person has money and he wants to settle down with his family, so he has to purchase, like he has the right to retain the surplus wealth or money and purchase immovable or movable property. That is his own choice. So property contributes towards the growth of culture and civilization, and right to property is a natural corollary of right to adequate wage. If I say that in every democratic country, citizens are given the right to property, and in Indian constitution, right to property was also mentioned but by the 44th Amendment of the Constitution, and this right has been deleted. So there is much difference of opinion on the right to property. According to communist or socialist view, there should not be any such right to private the property, and all the property is state owned. In contrast, we could say that many people think that private property is essential for creating interest in work and motivating an individual gets pleasure in improving and increasing a thing. So when he thinks that the thing is his personal possession, at that time right to property works. Now let's see what are legal rights. Legal rights are those rights which have the recognition of state. If anyone violates these rights, he is sentenced in accordance with the law. And next question is, in how many parts can legal rights be divided? Write their names: fundamental rights, social, political, and economic. And in how many parts can duties be divided? Moral and legal duties. And what is the meaning of moral duties? Moral duties are based on good conduct, they are performed on the ethical grounds. Now, right to education, which is actually very important. You all are students and you must be knowing what is the importance of human rights education, why it is required, why we want it. Like as a student, you all know what is the role of education in a student's life, and without education it is not possible at all that if we want to survive in a good way, we could. No, this is not possible at all, and this is one of the rights which we should have. So this right was basically included in our constitution, and at that time, what happened? Like this right was entitled every woman, man, and child to the human right to free and compulsory elementary education and to readily available forms of secondary and higher education. Why? Because we wanted to make people educated, literate. So this was the only way out when they would have free uh, means of getting education. So at that time they will get attracted and definitely they will involve their children and themselves in education. The human right to freedom from discrimination in all areas and levels of education and to equal access to continuing education and vocational training, and the human right to information about health, nutrition, reproduction, and family planning. Now, environment and human rights. Like, if I talk about human rights and the environment, they're interconnected because without good environment, a human being cannot survive. And human beings are dependent on the environment in which we live. Safe, clean, healthy, sustainable, without pollution, and with good quality of air, and it is an integral to the full enjoyment of a wide range of human rights, and including the rights to life, health, food, water, sanitation, hygiene, and like good roads and good transportation. Without a healthy environment, we are unable to fulfill our aspiration because we know, may not have access to even the minimum standards of human dignity. So, environment should be healthy for all the humans. Peace and conflict and transformation. You all know what is peace. What is conflict? Peace means silence. What kind of silence is required? Conflict means differences. What is the connectivity? Silence and differences, and then the transformation, that means the change. Let's see how they are interconnected. Narrow definition of peace: absence of war, absence of terrorism, absence of direct or physical violence, and domestic violence, child abuse, sexual harassment. This is all peace. When all these negative things are out of the society, that means it is peace. Now let's see the broader definition. The state and process of well-being and security in which human beings are respected and basic human beings are met. Defined holistically, seen not only the absence of direct or physical violence but also the indirect structural violence, sexism, gender biasness, human rights violation, poverty, ecological imbalances, and many more things. Peace is, more than just the absence of war. It comes from here. When people are satisfied, they will not become violent. When they will not become violent, it is the realization of justice also. No, just the absence of conflicts. There is no competition, there is no headache, there is no stress. Creatively dealing with the conflicts, promoting well being. So, when you are thinking of well being, so that means you are creating peace. What is conflict? As I told you, the difference of the opinion. When the conflict is a product of our inherent different in the diversities, and thus it is natural. So conflict is neither positive nor negative. It depends on how we approach it, and our approach is our choice. So it is determined by the conception of conflicts. And what is a conflict transformation? Conflict transformation describes the fact that conflict changes things and it transforms relationships. It also prescribes the need for us to aware of our conception of conflict, transform it, and eventually manifest that transformation in our behavior, in our attitude. So relationship is the focus of conflict transformation, changing it from one of competition to one of the cooperation. Now let's go to the fundamental rights in Constitution. The Bills of Right was firstly demanded by Motilal Nehru Committee in 1929. What was Bill of Rights? That means the list of rights. The rights which are protected by the Constitution are called fundamental rights. That means which are given by the Constitution to us are fundamental. And ordinary legal rights are protected and enforced by ordinary law, but fundamental rights are protected and guaranteed by the Constitution of the country. And ordinary rights may be changed by the legislature by ordinary process of lawmaking, but to change the fundamental rights, amendment is required in the Constitution. And as for that, judiciary has the power and responsibility to protect fundamental. The Constitution to India, Part 3, Fundamental Rights, right to equality, freedom, then of religion, and cultural and educational rights, and constitutional remedies. Right to equality, that means all people are equal, there is no discrimination on the basis of color, caste, gender, religion, language, anything. So, equality before law, if somebody has committed some crime, so it is equal for everyone. That means he or she will get the punishment or the fine according to its crime. So, equality before law, equal protection of law, prohibition of discrimination on the grounds of religion, sex, gender, race, caste, and equality of opportunity in public employment and abolition of untouchability and the abolition of titles, reservation articles. This is 16 by 4. Right to freedom. We have discussed a lot right to freedom. Freedom of speech and expression. That means if you want to have public processions, you want to have public assemblies, public meetings, and you want to approach them by addressing the assembly, so you can do it. Otherwise, and even you speak a lot at your this social media as well. So there is no foundation. You can talk. Assemble peacefully from association unions, move freely throughout the territory of India, and reside and settle in any part of India and practice any profession, trade, or business. These are the right to freedom. And right to life and liberty is also part of right to freedom. That means Article 21 of the Constitution of India, 1950, provides that no person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty except according to procedure established by law. And life, it has a much wider meaning, which includes right to live with the human dignity, right to livelihood, right to health, right to pollution free air, all the rights. Protection in respect of conviction of or offence. No person shall be convicted of any offence except for violation of law in force at times of commission of the act, charged as an offence, nor be subjected in a penalty greater than that which might have been inflicted under the law in force at that time of commission of the offence. No person shall be prosecuted and punished for the same offence more than once, and no person accused of any offence shall be compelled to be a witness against him. Now, in this right, what happens? No person shall be convicted of any offense except for the violence of a law, and they shall not be prosecuted or punished for the same offense again and again. And no person can be accused of any offense shall be compelled to be a witness. Right to education, the Constitution 86th Amendment Act 2002 it inserted Article 21A in the Constitution of India to provide free and compulsory education of all children in the age group of 6 to 14 and years as a fundamental right. Preventive detention. Here you could see the picture as well. Person is behind the bars. So preventive detention without trial run means a person having custody. The aim of preventive detention, the aim of this detention for the crime committed by a person, not to punish, but to prevent him from committing the crime. Thus, it is a protective rather than the punitive. That means no person can be behind the bars without any reason, and if the person has a reason, he or she should have gone through according to the laws and any person in turn to right to know what basis he has been arrested for and the right to make representation against order of detention. Very important right which is against exploitation, prohibiting trafficking and forced labor, prohibitions on child labor. Prohibiting trafficking means the human smuggling. In the olden times also, like, people were in habit of making the slaves. So human trafficking means the people, those who are weak due to any of the reason, they are being they are used for trafficking. That means human smuggling. And the prohibitions on child labor, the children those who are below 14 years must not work. But normally, what happens, people at tea stalls and small factories and industries, they use these children for their labor. Right of children against bonded labor, exploitation of child labor is a worldwide uh, problem. A very large proportion of the children are forced to work from an early age as bonded labor. Work conditions are usually very bad, and remuneration they get is just nominal. And such children are naturally deprived of education and subjected to conditions injurious to their health and welfare. And the United Nations called for an action for the elimination of child labor. I have two case studies. One is from, like, if I talk about the children, those who are the bin pickers, like garbage pickers. They are the children, those who are always active. You can find these children acting as the child labor, or if I say the children, those who work in the bangle factories, are also the example of this bonded labor, because they don't have the chance to study, but due to the financial conditions of the family, it is mandatory for them to work. Otherwise, they couldn't get money, and the financial conditions would be much worse than these at present they have. And the United Nations called for an action for the elimination of child labor and for the prevention of the sale of children and child pornography. Let's revise how our rights and duties interrelated. Rights and duties are two sides of the same coin. Rights and duties go side by side. One right is another duty, and a right belonging to one person imposes corresponding duty on the others to respect his right. For instance, an individual's right to property implies that it is the duty of others not to take away or steal his property without his consent. And one right is one's duty also, because this is the right which we have got from the like, this is our fundamental right which we have got from the Constitution. We must enjoy the voting right, and one's right is one's duty, vice versa. Because if I am working something, it could be the right of the other one. If somebody has a right, that could be the duty of. This is right against exploitation, stop human trafficking, traffic illegal selling and buying of men and women and immoral purposes, beggar when someone is asked to do work without any wage. And right to constitutional remedies, right to move the courts to. That means if you need some legal advices or support or security, so this right has all those things. Right to move the courts to issue and direction orders, writs for enforcement of rights, habeas corpus, mandamus, prohibition, quo warranto, and certiorari. We are the people, we are the citizens, and explain the role of education in the development of human personality. Education plays a very significant role in the development of human. Now, let us talk about cultural and educational rights. Like, what exactly these cultural and educational rights? You could see here protection of languages, culture of minorities, right of minorities to establish educational institutions. Now, cultural and educational rights. Uh, this right is the recognition and preservation of the different type of people with diverse languages and different beliefs, and constitutes the essence of secularism in. And if I talk about the religious things, to conserve language, script, or culture, it guarantees to conserve own language and script or culture. Then the right to minorities to establish and administer educational institutions. It also prohibits the states from discriminating in granting aid to educational institutions managed by the religious and linguistic. Let's come to this point in a very detailed way. If I say religious rights can be understood by dividing in three categories, let's right to religious faith, right to worship, and right to preach religion. That means if a somebody wants to follow or trust some religion, he or she is free to. That means this is his personal affair. A person, a citizen, cannot be deprived of other religion or other rights guaranteed by the state to all the citizens simply because he holds a particular religious faith. No, it is not like that. Because India is a secular country and India always believe to give equal respect to all the religions. They have not given any special status to any of the religions. Then right to worship is also the same thing. If you want to worship any of the religion, if I am like I'm born in a different religion and I want to follow some other, no one will stop me because it is my right that I if I want to follow any of the religions I could. And right to preach religion as well. If I want to preach the religious educational things like the preaching of the saints, and the followers should have full freedom to preach and to follow the religion as well. So there should not be any restriction. So let's revise, like explain the meaning of rights. Rights are those conditions of social life without which human personality cannot develop, and the rights are recognized by the state according to the Bazanquet. A right is a claim recognized by society and enforced by the state. And if we distinguish between rights and claims recognized by the society and enforced by law and state, and without recognition, rights are empty claims, and each and every claim of an individual cannot be as rights. To socio-economic rights, right to freedom in domestic affair, right to adequate wages, and the citizen should be given freedom in their domestic affairs, and the state should not interfere in the personal life of the individual, and the state cannot prescribe a particular dress and model for the people. And adequate wages, I have told you in a very detailed way that the minimum standard of living a person earns is right to adequate wages. That means this is his or her right. Now, the right to freedom of religion, we have already talked a lot about it, and freedom of concise and free profession, practice, and propagation of religion, and freedom to manage religious affairs, and freedom to pay taxes for promotion of any particular religion. And it is also like to obtain religious instructions or worship in certain educational institutions, and prohibition of employment of children in hazardous jobs. So these are all right to freedom of religion.